no question for Mr.
No question for you. Okay, all is good. You understand
Yeah.
everything?
Yeah,
Okay.
somehow.
Somehow
That's
that's
something. Some
something
part need
some
to
hard to
read again.
read again.
Okay. So let me just go and refresh a little bit into the assignment so that I mean you probably can check whether it's same or not with what you think it is. Okay.
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 So okay, assignment 2. Assignment 1 in here, if I basically go and into the assignment 2, assignment 2 problem 1 is basically almost the same with the assignment 1 problem 1. Okay, and then the hint for the correct velocity profile, shear stress, and everything is given in here. So this hopefully will be helpful for you to check whether what you do is correct or not from these final expressions in here, because the main motivations for the problem in the assignment is not to basically reduce the marks or basically make you disadvantage, but the main the one that we want to do is basically just to make you be able to think in group context on how to solve the problem basically, and the problem should be I mean the difficulty should be above the normal problem. So I assume that the problem 1 there should be not much problem, I think. Okay. The problem 2 in here, we need to read carefully. The time required to achieve 1% of the steady state velocity profile in a circular tube and rectangular channel. So what is given in here is the velocity profile for the transient change in velocity. So we know that equation 8 and equation 9 in here is the functions of the radius and the time. So in equation 8, the coordinate for the position is r because it's a circular tube. So it's basically we are using a radius, and then in the rectangular channel in here we are using y. Okay, and then there is in here is a functions of r and t. So you see that r comes only in the first term, and then t is coming on the second term in here, and the same with the equation 9. Basically y appears on the first term, and then t only appears on the second term. Okay, and then you basically if you get if you look at the equations in here superficially, then you probably gonna get confused with delta p r square divided by 4 mu l. But then imagine as we go into the steady state later on, we will have a maximum velocity. The maximum this delta p r square divided by 4 mu l can be replaced with another term called the maximum velocity in the steady state. Okay, so that will make your life easier if you set it in terms of the steady state velocity, steady state maximum velocity. So this one can be expressed in terms of the maximum steady state velocity. This term in here also can be expressed in terms of the maximum steady state velocity. That's just how you basically do mathematical manipulations to basically convert these two terms. Okay, and then the questions in here is the time required to achieve 1% of steady state velocity. So you need to be able to basically think about how you get the steady state velocity from the expression given in here. So steady state implies something. Okay, so in the beginning there must be a change, but as the time goes very large, then you will be able to get the expression for the steady state from these equations in here. Same with equation 9 as well in here. Okay, and then to make your life easier, okay, you need to basically use a dimensionless variables. So r can be expressed in terms of the dimensionless radius by dividing r with the capital R. Capital R in here is the circular tube of the radius r. Okay, and then the same with t in here. t can be expressed in terms of the dimensionless time. So that's basically what is expressed in here. If you have your kinematic viscosity, you want to check the units of this kinematic viscosity multiplied by the time divided by r squared. Okay. And if you are correct, I mean you are using the correct one, so that means your r will be limited between 0 to 1. Your dimensionless r will be limited from 0 to r, and your dimensionless time will also be limited from 0 to 1. So that will make your life easier, because you don't have to basically figure out the value of the velocity with regard to the steady state, the velocity of the transient with regard to the steady state for many values. But if you basically make it dimensionless, then you basically limit the dimensionless radius to 0 to 1, and then the dimensionless time from 0 to 1 as well. So in that regard, you will need to use either MATLAB or Excel to basically find the correlations between the transient change with respect to the steady state for different values of dimensionless radius and dimensionless time. Okay. I mean, so far, I think this one is quite clear for you, Chan. So should be no. I mean, you can digest up to this one, right? Should be no problem, right? And for the second, the equation 9 in here, you need to know that for the characteristic coordinate for the rectangular channel, you need to use h divided by 2, because h is basically the channel length, or the channel thickness, and then divided by 2. So that you have to apply to the first term and the second term as well. Okay, in order for you to be able to get that the same formulation with equation 8. Equation 8 in here is using r as your characteristic length for your geometry. In here, you have to use h divided by 2 as your characteristic thickness for your particular geometry in here. The other thing that we need to I can describe to you is that in equations 8 in here, a Bessel function comes out in here. Okay, this J naught in here is referring to the Bessel functions of the zero order. Okay, the Bessel functions in here, J1 in here on the denominator in here, refers to the Bessel functions of the first order. Okay. Now in here is expressed that this J phi x is the Bessel functions of order phi. So if you have 0 in here, means that it's Bessel function of the zero order. If you have 1 in here, it's a Bessel functions of the first order. And then the lambda n in here is the roots of this zero order Bessel function. So what I mean by the roots of the zero order of the Bessel function is basically the values, a particular value of this lambda that will make this function becomes 0. Okay, so if I see in here in the note that I give to you, okay, you can see that in here you have a different picture of the Bessel functions in here. You have the zero order Bessel functions in here. You have the first order of the Bessel functions in here. I'm not talking about K and I. K and I is basically a modified Bessel function. We just talk about the normal Bessel functions in here. So what I meant by the root of the Bessel functions is basically the particular value where you make this zero order Bessel function equal to 0. So you see that this is actually a decaying periodic function. So as you increase the x values in here, it will go down, and this will increase again, in here. And you have a particular value in here of the x where your zero order Bessel function will become 0 at this particular point. And then you also have another one again at this particular point. You will have another one again at this particular point. You will have another one again at this particular point, at this particular point, at this particular point. So that lambda n for that Bessel function is what is described by this table in here. So this one is basically the roots of the zero order of the Bessel function. The zero order Bessel function. This is the roots of the first order of the Bessel function. This is the roots of the second order Bessel function. So if you want to cross check again, for example, this one is 3.8371. You go into this one. So this one is at 0, is in here at this point in here. So that one is 3.81 something. And then this first order Bessel function will have another 0 at this particular position in here at around 7. So you want to check it in the table again. So that one is 7.0156. So in here in table 3.2, you are given like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the roots. But this list can be extended again, and actually this one can be found using MATLAB function that I give in here, the MATLAB functions in here. Okay, you can use in the process modeling, for example, you can use another a particular toolbox to find the roots for this Bessel function, because this Bessel function is given in the MATLAB code simply by this Bessel J and X. Okay, the complicating factors in this particular assignment is this series in here. So you need to calculate the series in here. Okay, in order for you to be able to get a plot that basically display the relationship between the transient to the steady state versus the dimensionless radius and the dimensionless time. Okay, if you're able to plot that thing and show that basically when the transient velocity can achieve 1% of the steady state velocity profile, then you will be able to get the time for both the circular tube and then the rectangular channel. And then you can compare how can how can the time required for the velocity profile to achieve the 1% of the steady state different for the circular tube with the rectangular channel. Okay, so I'm not testing you on how to derive these equations in here, because if I tested you on how to derive these equations in here, then it will be complicated, because it basically involves solving a partial differential equations. But it's in here it's not. I just want to basically try to basically get you work on this problem as a groups. Okay, and I think for equation 9 it will be relatively easier than equation 8, because there is no Bessel functions in here. So you only have an exponential in here, and then you have minus 1 raised to n, and then you also have a periodic one. In here it's a cosinus. Okay, so this one should be easier. But if you're able to basically crack into one of these, then I think figuring out the other one should be not too difficult. I mean, but the first challenge is basically to be able to get this one. So you don't have to solve it using MATLAB, for example. You can solve it using Excel. And the main things for this problem is basically I'm happy for you to try first with your group mates, and then if necessary, you can confirm with me whether your steps are correct, and if your step is not yet correct, then I will give you a hint into how to basically make you progress. But of course, I will not tell you the answers and the derivations. And then you also need to basically put all the derivations that is required, all the terms into your assignment too, so I can see everything, including in MATLAB codes. If you solve it in the Excel, or if you put all the manual calculations, then you need to show it in your assignments. Everything has to be given so that I know what you do is correct or not. Okay. I think that will be what I can discuss along the assignment. Assignment 2, sorry. And then this one is basically I give you another note. I give you a example into how you can write a MATLAB program that computes this series, for example. Okay, and then you can look at another online resources basically complement your informations on this node as well to be able to basically crack this particular problem. Okay, Chan, do you have any problem on the problem 1, assignment 2? I think this is quite direct, right? You are okay with that one? No problem, right?
Nah, no problem. Nah, no problem.
Okay, good. Anything you want to ask particularly for this in this particular drop-in sessions, or anything related with the online materials this week? I mean, with the lectures, with the tutorials, or all is good? Online quiz you have done yesterday, and I can see in the system that you perform quite well for that online quiz, so that should be okay, I guess, right? There was one bonus questions on.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was one bonus questions on that I give everybody, like 3 marks bonus basically on the online quiz too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no problem.
other than that,
no
then
problem.
I guess I can discuss a little bit into my lectures a little bit. Just very quick one. Okay. In this week, we discuss or we feature 3 examples, 3 particular examples. The first example is the diffusion with heterogeneous chemical reactions. Okay, so in here, for this particular system, it's the reaction occurs in the catalytics in the surface. Okay, so this occurs in the surface. When a reaction occurs in the surface, in the beginning, we need to know that in order for us to get an explicit expressions of the molar flux for a particular component, or a combined momentum, combined mass flux or combined mole flux for that particular situation, it consisted of us finding of 2 terms. The first one is the molecular contribution. The second one is the convective contribution. In mass transport, the thing that makes it complicated is that you have the contributions from both the A and the B. If you are in a binary system, and the Fick's law in here is basically derived based on the precedent that we are using only a binary system. For non-binary system, then you need to go with the Maxwell-Stefan equation, for example, or another type of equations that will be more complicated. So in these particular equations in here, we see that there is a catalytic reactor in which the reaction of 2A becomes B is carried out in here. And then we can simplify a scenario where we basically focus on the surface of the catalyst in one of these catalysts, for example. And then what I can show in here is that we can neglect the curvature effect of this catalyst, and then we assume that this has a flat surface geometry, and then we are using a gas film model that we derived in the previous lecture. So there is a gas in here, okay, a gas film, basically, where A should diffuse before reaching the surface of this catalytic, and then the reaction is very instantaneous, so that reaction is very rapid. So whenever A reach the surface, then it will be straight converted into B, and then the B has to go up again, passing the gas in order for the B to go out. Okay, so in saying that we have a gas film in here, we are involving a diffusion, but then our most important assumption is that the reaction in the catalytic surface in here is instantaneous. So the reaction rate is very, very, very large, as is infinite, basically. Okay, with the catalytic surface, then once we put in this, we get from the geometry that the molar flux of B is minus half of the NAZ, and this one can be obtained from the stoichiometric 2A becomes B. Okay, so that's very important that you get it from the stoichiometry, and then you see that the directions for the A as it goes down is opposite with the directions of the B. A has to go down and B has to go up. That's why you have minus in here. And then NB equal half NA is because of this particular stoichiometry in here. All else is basically the same. So I will not discuss it in here again. I just want to point out that where there should be an assumption that connect the systems to your particular combined molar flux equation, so that you will be able to get an AZ expression as an explicit expression of XA in here, for example. Okay. Then once you go everything, there is one thing now. If the reaction is basically happening on the surface, then that reactions will be defined within your boundary conditions. So this is where it comes in here. So at BC1, your at Z equals 0, XA is equal XA naught. This is coming from your system. But the definition for the reaction is given in the BC2 in here. At Z equal the thickness of the film, then XA is equal 0. So basically at this particular positions in here, basically the mole fractions of A should be equal to 0, because we are assuming that the reaction is basically having a very, very high reaction, that it's the reaction occur instantaneously. So once you do everything in here, then you will be able to get the expressions of the XA, and then also the molar flux of the reactant through the film. Okay. Then the next example that discussed in here is in the case where the reaction is not instantaneous. So in here, the diffusion is occurring with the slow heterogeneous reaction in here. So again, we are playing with the boundary conditions again in here. So instead of using the BC2, we need to use another boundary conditions in here. So if we use that boundary, another boundary conditions, then we will have a different expressions of your XA. So your XA will be different in here. And then in here is just basically simplifications into how I can simplify these equations in here. Okay. The most important thing that comes out is in the next example in here. In this particular example, involve a diffusion with the homogeneous chemical reactions. So let's say you have a gas A that reacts with the liquid B in here. It becomes AB. And an example of the system will be the absorption of the CO2 by a sodium hydroxide, for example. Then the chemical reaction at this particular system is occurring in the bulk portion of your liquid. So the reaction expressions for this particular reaction comes in your mass balance, because it is expressed in terms of the volume. Okay, so it's not the reaction does not occur in the surface. If the reaction occurs in the surface, then the reaction expression for that particular systems will occur in your boundary conditions in here. But if your reaction occurs in the bulk portion of your system, then it will appear in your mass balance. Okay, so the way that you proceed with this chemical reaction is quite particular. So you need to be able to understand basically how you connect the mathematical physically with your particular scenario. So if you do everything correctly in here, blah this, blah that, and then you have to make another assumptions in here. So in these assumptions in here, the XA is approaching 0, so that the second term becomes negligible. Then your NA can become this, basically. Okay, then you end up with the second order ordinary differential equations with the boundary conditions in here. Okay, and the boundary conditions in here is one is where the concentration at the surface is fixed, and then on the bottom of your container, basically there is no A diffuses. And then you go back again in here, and you know all these things again. Basically, I'm just basically repeating a little bit in here. Okay, go and everything, then you will be able to get these equations in here. And I will not discuss these things in here. I will just mainly focus on this particular part in here. Okay. And these are the interpretations of the molar flux in here. Okay. And for all other transfer phenomena problem, our final expression is normally giving us a way to basically collect the values of those parameters that are difficult to basically digests in the normal systems. So we as a chemical engineer, we normally try to Stanford phenomena is very useful in terms of formulating how to get something that is abstract into that something that you cannot see from your experiments. Okay, in this case, it's basically the solubility of CA0 and the diffusivity DAB can be determined. This is how you basically can obtain these two parameters. Okay, I think that's that will be whatever I can discuss today. I guess it's only you come up, Chan. I mean, if there is no other questions, then I will conclude my sessions in here. Then I will provide an announcement, basically, that I will upload my drop-in sessions into the Canvas. Okay.
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 So, sure, no questions on assignment 2. I still have like 30
so
minutes
far,
to.
so far okay lah.
So far okay lah.
So far, okay, yeah. How do you
Yeah.
think of transport?
Yeah.
A bit difficult because no
Transport?
face-to-face, isn't it?
Transport?
Right? Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, what to do? I cannot do much about this. I mean, I'm sure if it is face-to-face, then I mean, you can always ask me. But then I also welcome everybody to ask me. For example, there was a student that saw me yesterday, and then also another student saw me again the week before. But the main key message for the main motivations of me giving those problems is not to reduce the marks or to penalize you, but I just want you to basically be able, all my students to be able to tackle a problem that is a bit tough than the one that you get in the class, so that in the future you will be able to confidently tackle those problems independently yourself. And I will always welcome you and other students to confirm with me whether what you do is correct or not, and then I can give you a hint from that point forward. Okay, I still think that you still have another week again to go for that assignment, so there should be a plenty of time. And then other than that, then nothing else. I think the drop-in session for next week will be on Monday, and then after the next drop-in session, I will let the students to basically do their own study, and they can contact me if they have any other questions. Okay, other than that, then I'll stop the recording now, and then I will conclude this session. Thank you for attending, Chan.